Have you ever had that quiet, nagging feeling in the background of your life? The sense that you're capable of more, but somehow you're not fully living it? Not in a dramatic midlife crisis way, just a subtle awareness that something feels unfinished. As if you're following a script you didn't consciously choose. It can feel like life is happening to you rather than through you, like roles were assigned early on, expectations settled quietly into place, and now you're just playing your part, doing what's sensible, what's expected, what feels safe. If you've felt that, you're not broken, you're not ungrateful, and you're definitely not alone. That feeling is deeply human. And today I want to talk about how to reframe it, not with motivation or hype, but with an idea that is genuinely liberating when you take it seriously. It comes from the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, and it's one of the most powerful ideas ever applied to personal freedom. His core idea is this: existence precedes essence. Now, I know that sounds like something pulled straight out of a philosophy lecture, but stay with me, because when you strip it down, it becomes incredibly practical. What Sartre was saying is that you're not born with a fixed identity or a predetermined nature that dictates who you are meant to be. You exist first, you show up in the world first, and only after that do you define yourself through your actions, your decisions, and the meaning you give them. In other words, there is no pre-written label stamped on you at birth. You weren't born bad with money, you weren't born unconfident, you weren't destined to be the reliable one or the creative one or the one that never quite gets it together. Those are stories that formed later, patterns, interpretations, conclusions drawn from past behavior, not permanent truths about who you are. Sartre's idea challenges something very deep in us, because most of us grow up believing that who we are is something we discover rather than something we create. We say things like, "That's just how I am," or "I've always been like this," as if your personality were a fixed object set in stone somewhere in childhood. But Sartre would say no, who you are is something you actively construct moment by moment. Every choice you make is not just a decision, it's a statement, a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And that leads to what Sartre called radical freedom. Radical freedom doesn't mean you can control everything in your life. You can't. You don't choose where you're born, what's happened to you, or many of the circumstances you're handed. But you do choose how you respond. You choose what you do next. You choose what meaning you assign to your experiences. And those choices, repeated over time, become you. That's the part most people miss. Your life isn't a static identity that you occasionally adjust. It's an ongoing act of authorship. You are constantly writing your story, even when you think you're standing still. The script of your life isn't just blank, it's alive. And you're holding the pen whether you realize it or not. Now, with that freedom comes something uncomfortable: responsibility. Because if your life is shaped by your choices, then you can't fully hide behind excuses. You can't pretend you're just a passive character in someone else's story. And that's where many people step back. Sartre called this stepping back bad faith, the habit of pretending we're not free. Bad faith shows up in very ordinary ways. We tell ourselves, "I don't really have a choice," or "This is just how things are," or "My past made me this way," or "My circumstances were different, I'd be different." Sometimes we blame society. Sometimes we blame our upbringing. Sometimes we blame timing, luck, or other people. And while circumstances absolutely matter, Bad faith is what happens when we use them to avoid owning our agency. Because owning your freedom is uncomfortable. It means accepting that in many cases, staying stuck is also a choice. Not a conscious one, but a choice nonetheless. And that can be hard to face. It's often easier to believe that change is impossible than to accept that it's possible but requires responsibility. But here's the thing, every time you say, "That's just the way I am," you're freezing yourself in a moment that no longer exists. You're creating a past pattern as if it were a permanent identity. And Sartre would argue that the moment you act differently, even in a small way, that identity begins to change. This is where the idea becomes deeply empowering. Because if you are not defined by a fixed essence, then you are never trapped by who you've been so far. Your past explains you, it does not define you. And that means the question isn't, who am I? The real question is, who am I choosing to become? Now, when people hear this, they often jump straight to big dramatic changes, quitting jobs, reinventing their life overnight, making sweeping declarations. But that's not how real change usually works. Your essence isn't written in grand gestures. It's written in small, repeated actions, in the quiet choices no one applauds. That 5-minute task you've been avoiding, that honest conversation you've been postponing, the decision to respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. That moment where you choose discipline over comfort. Each one of those moments is you writing a sentence in your story. Not the whole chapter, just a sentence. But over time, sentences become paragraphs, paragraphs become chapters, and chapters become a life. This is why consistency matters more than inspiration. Change doesn't happen in the emotional high of a single decision. It happens in the steady repetition of aligned choices, like a flame that burns quietly each morning, not flashy, not dramatic, but persistent. Day after day, week after week. That's where meaning is built. That's where confidence comes from. That's where identity shifts. Not because you told yourself a new story, but because you lived one. And here's the most important part. Your life is not merely unfolding in front of you. You are actively creating it right now through what you choose to do, what you choose to avoid, and what you choose to tolerate. Even doing nothing is a choice. Even staying the same is an act of authorship. So if your life is an unwritten story, what's the next chapter? Not the perfect chapter, not the impressive one, just the honest next one. What small intentional choice could you make today that aligns with the person you want to be, not the person you assume you are? Because the moment you take responsibility for that choice, you step out of bad faith and into freedom. And that's where life starts to feel purposeful again. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because it's yours. So take a moment today, right now, to acknowledge your radical freedom. What will you choose to be starting today?